Okay, so the people in class have a little index card. Yeah, to put this stuff on. The people online will just need to send me an email and put your stuff on an email. So I need your name, your prayer request, if you have one, because I pray for you throughout the semester. And then did I send an announcement about reading chapter 1 before class today?
A couple months ago, I think you did.
Did all of you, so did all of you read the announcements on Canvas for this class?
Most of them.
How many of them are there? There are like 3 or something?
3, I think.
Okay, so put on here, for point 3 on this little card, put I read all of the announcements, or I did not read all of the announcements. And then for number 4 on the card, put down I've read the syllabus. It's on Canvas, or I have not read the syllabus. And if you haven't read it, you can also say, but I plan to do it before the sun goes down today. And the 5th thing is I read the attendance policy.
Is that on the syllabus?
Mm-hmm.
Is it in the syllabus?
No.
Okay, good. It's also, I think, in announcements. But you've read the attendance policy, or I have not read the attendance policy. And then the 6th thing is you've read chapter 1 in the textbook. And according to my little calendar here, we have 14 chapters to work through and about 22 class periods.
Mm-hmm.
So that means we have about 1.5 class periods for each chapter. So have you developed a habit yet of reading, of looking at the course calendar and then reading the stuff that's assigned for that class period before you get to class? Or have you just been accustomed to just walk into class with your pockets empty and your mind ready to receive whatever we give you?
It depends on the class, honestly. Like, if the reputation of the teacher precedes the class.
Okay.
So, depending on the professor, I'll read through. Or if it's a professor I've never had before,
Okay.
I'll read through the syllabus.
So for this class, this is going to be a discussion format for the whole time. And so you want to read the chapter. And if you haven't done it yet, then you can read it. And if you have questions when you're reading through it, you jot your questions down, and then we can talk about them in class. I'm going to ask a bunch of questions today because I'm obviously filling in to teach this class for someone who isn't here to do it. And I'm not sure what the history of your department is, but I'm not trying to make waves for your department. But at the same time, I want to make sure that you're learning everything you should learn from this textbook and from this course that you need for your future as a teacher. I'm assuming that all of you are education majors. Is that right? No one's just taking this class for the fun of it. I would. I took every psychology class they offered over at the University of Missouri here in Kansas City in the School of Education just because I liked it. Don't you guys don't like this stuff? Man.
Well, it's not so much that, but our programs don't have a lot of leeway for gen eds.
Oh, you don't get a lot of choices about it.
No.
See, that's the beauty of going to grad school. You have, your undergraduate is completely prescribed. And to get a bachelor's degree, you have to earn like what, 135 credits or something, or 36? To get a master's degree, you only have to earn 36. Whoa. That's 1/4 of my program. And then you get to pick a lot of the stuff you want to take. And then, since you only have to spend 36 hours to get the master's degree, if they have other courses in the program that are interesting, you just sign up and take them because they're fun to take. And plus, as a teacher, the reason I have a major in psychology as a math teacher is when I became a math teacher, I just naturally do math, and I just naturally think math. So I just walked into the classroom assuming that all the students would just naturally do and think math. And that was a mistake, wasn't it? And so I started going to the library and doing research about how to be a better math teacher. And I read about this concept called math anxiety. Have you heard about it? Now, is there anything called history anxiety?
Nope.
Literature anxiety? Reading anxiety? Have you heard any of those?
Reading anxiety.
Is there reading anxiety? I was disappointed that my discipline, PE anxiety, maybe some of that, but my discipline that I taught in seemed to be the only one that they kept writing all these articles about people just anxious when they walk in the room because it says mathematics, and they get stressed, and I'm going, what is this all about? So I concluded I have to figure out some way to help them minimize their stress. I have to figure out what's going on inside their heads, and I found out that studying psychology would help me do that. So, along with this being a prescribed course that you have to take, hopefully what will happen is that you will go through this class, and what you say you do if you don't want to print it, you
Screenshot.
screenshot it, screenshot stuff in here that you can file away on a flash drive or put in a file folder somewhere for future reference, so you don't lose it when your subscription expires because you took the cheap route. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. I take the cheap route often on things. It's just that we love this stuff so much. We wanted a nice, warm, fuzzy Ed Psych book in our hands. So, isn't that why we got these? Because we just thought, this is cool stuff. We got $100. We want to just blow it on this book.
I gotta have a book in front of me. I can't.
Because, okay, see, and that's kind of the same with me. So it's like, okay, so that just means if I spend $100 on this, then I'll just have to cut back on groceries or go shopping at the thrift store instead of buying it at Kohl's or something till I recoup my $100 that I spent for the book. And by the way, I paid $100 for mine just like you did. They didn't give me a free one. So I understand how it feels to part with $100 for these books that we're using in here. But there wasn't any other way to do it, because part of this class, and if you've started reading the book already, the book talks about this, but part of this class is preparation for what you have to do to get your teaching certificate. So that part of the class, you're saying, I'm going to definitely need to screenshot or print off those pages because I'm going to need that stuff. And have all of you had things where you've had to do testing on the computer and that kind of thing? Have you done any of that yet? See, you've done some?
Like a test on the computer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking tests on the computer and doing some of that interactive stuff if you're an educator, you'll probably eventually someday go to grad school. not to get another bachelor's degree, but just to spend 36 hours getting a master's degree in some specialized area. And when that happens, you're going to have to do a lot of stuff online. And this book is written by a guy who has done an excellent job of giving you online stuff to help you. And so, have you noticed, Stephen, that I don't have any exams I don't have an exam on the syllabus, do I, anywhere?
I think it said something about a final exam.
Yeah, we'll figure out something for that. In the meantime, you just go to that, what is that called that you go to with Pearson?
My lab.
My Lab. You go to My Lab. As you're working through the book, have you noticed already, if you've read through the book, have you noticed they've got these things where you click on it
Mm-hmm.
and it takes you to My Lab? All of you have your My Lab subscription stuff and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you'll be able to do that. So what I'm going to want you to do is to talk to me about how it's working. Just like somebody sent me a email and said, I've already written a summary for the first chapter, but I'm trying to upload it to Canvas and it won't let me. Has that happened to you in any of your classes? Well, you know why it won't let you? I said, let me see if I can figure that out and fix it for you. So I went to Canvas and I clicked on the assignment, and wouldn't you know, the little box that you have to check as to how they submit it,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason the box was checked on paper only. Or it was either checked, had to type it in.
Mm.
So I had to go click on the edit button and go down and click on, you can either type it in or you can upload
Mm-hmm.
a file. And bingo, the student's problem was fixed. Now it could be that some of you have instructors, even here at Calvary, who don't know that that's what happens on Canvas if you don't fix it and tell it how to do that. So when we're going through this My Lab thing, I've already done some work on My Lab myself. I mean, once I made the decision that you were going to have to use it, actually I didn't make that decision until after I did it myself, and I thought, this is really good stuff. It's great for review, and I even answered some questions without even studying for it, just to see what would happen. And the little thing pops up and says, I'm sorry, but that's the wrong answer. And so I had to go back and look at some stuff, and they said, that's right. And they talked to me. So it's really a useful little tool. But if you're having problems with something, just bring your questions to class or send me an email, either way, and we'll keep connected that way as we work through here. Okay. So let me see. Is Hannah here?
Which one?
There's Hannah. Okay.
Hannah Cahill.
Oh, there's two Hannahs?
Yeah.
Well, you're at the top, Hannah Cahill. So, and Kayla,
Right here.
right here. Now, how come you guys are all sitting in order where I just go right there? Should I make a seating chart? No. And Carissa,
Then right here.
did I say that right?
Yeah, Chris's as well. Oh, that's true. There are two Chris.
There's another one.
Well, this is,
Another.
but hers is spelled without
Oh.
an H, so it was probably her he was talking about.
Well, but if we're going by last
It's
name,
Harworth
it would be
Oh,
came
that one.
first,
Harworth,
yeah,
you're
and
right.
Yeah.
Schofield comes second. All right, so I've got
Wasn't
what the first
first.
Carissa here, Elisa, E-L-I-S-E-O,
Oh, she's supposed to.
Alicia Beam.
Lewis.
I don't know.
Oh,
Oh, no.
she's not here. Matthew,
Yeah.
yeah, right there. Okay. Anna Lee, all right. And Cherish, okay. Am I saying it right?
Mm-hmm.
If I don't pronounce your name the way your mother does, correct me and I'll fix it here so I can get it right. Seth?
Right.
All right. And Carissa? Is that right?
It's gonna
Okay.
be so weird.
And Hannah?
Yes.
You knew you were the other Hannah because it's Sorensen
Yes,
and
I
Cahill.
knew.
You just know how this stuff works. It's alphabetical. All right. So have I counted for everybody in this room? All of you are on my list. All of you filled out a little card, and I'll pick those up later. And so let's pray and get started. Father, thank you for this time we have together. I ask your blessing on these students as we work through this material. Help them to learn things that will equip them to be good teachers and help them to find ways to save the information that they'll need that will help them do well in their licensing test and all the other kind of things, all the other hoops they have to jump through to become certified teachers. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And that's what I call them, hoops you have to jump through to be certified teachers. I actually started teaching before I had a certificate. They just needed a math teacher so bad at this new Christian school that they hired me to be a math and Bible teacher. I had a background in civil engineering, so I had already had calculus, and I was a graduate of Calvary, so I had a major in Bible, so I started teaching Bible, and they wanted me to teach math. And you know what some of these parents kept asking? Are you a certified teacher? And I said to my wife, if one more parent says to me at the next PTA, parent-teacher meeting, if you're a certified teacher, I'm going to go get one of those. I mean, I grew up on a farm. I knew how to drive before I was old enough to have a license. Anyone know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Wear me out. You know, you can't do that. You don't have a license. So I went to the university and got a license. I was licensed in Missouri, licensed in Kansas. I've been licensed in Illinois. I'm licensed to practice education all over the world. Because I just go get another license. Whatever they say I have to do, I just get it. The place I had the most trouble was in Illinois. When I went up there to get my license, they said, you have a bachelor's degree from Calvary. I'm going, yes? They said, well, we don't acknowledge degrees from Christian colleges here in the state of Illinois. And I said, well, I'm not applying for my certificate with my degree from Calvary. I'm applying for my certificate with my degree from UMKC. And I'm sure you accept their credential. Well, yes, but UMKC shouldn't have given you a master's degree being a Christian. That's what they said.
Come on.
I said, well, why don't you send them a letter and tell them they made a mistake? In the meantime, would you please process my papers? Or I think if you don't, that's called discrimination. Yeah. Drop one of those politically buzzwords in their ear and see what they do with that one. He said, and by the way, here's my address. Send me a list of all the things I have to do to get a certificate to teach in this state. And if you're requiring more of me than you do other people just because I'm a Christian, we'll see what we can do about that. Because that definitely would be discrimination. And I got a letter in the mail that says, you have to go to the university and take a 2-hour class on teaching math to slow learners and a 2-hour class on teaching math to gifted. And I signed up and jumped through the hoops and did the work and got my certificate. So I've been certified. I'm certified to be a public school superintendent, people. I got certificates running out my ears. And you know what? They did not make, none of those licenses or certificates made me a better teacher. What made me a better teacher is the stuff I learned from the courses I took. And because, and see, I had an advantage because while I was working on my teaching credential, I was actually teaching. So I could turn right around and take the stuff I was using. But really, you can do some of this too, because even if you're not teaching a subject that you're going to teach eventually, you have Christian ministries, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And you have people in the dorm or roommates or friends or someone you can practice on. Some of that stuff that I learned in psychology, in educational psychology, some of it that when I first learned it, I thought, I'm not so sure about that. I said, well, I'll test it. I'll try it on my wife and see what happens. So my wife was my favorite guinea pig, go-to guinea pig for testing this stuff. And guess what? It's amazing how much of this stuff, that this educational psychology that they've discovered as to how people's minds work and how they respond to what's going on, it's amazing how much that stuff works.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to jump in here and start doing this stuff. And the first thing is the table of contents. That's this page right here. And I don't know if you've got it on your screen, that's great. But I'm going to give you one. If you don't, then you can start a little file folder somewhere. And I need to ask a question. Why would I start this class by having you look at the brief table of contents for the course? Why would I do that? Oh, do you have those cards? I'll take those cards. I'll take those cards. This is a test. This is a quiz question. You just want to be great as well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Why would I start this course, this 14-chapter course that we're going to work through, by having you look at the table of contents?
It's a scope and sequence.
Oh, you have no idea. Okay. You've heard how much I love teaching math, how I'm a fanatic about it. When you say those words, when I hear the word scope and sequence come out of a teacher's mouth, it's just like, serve me some more strawberry shortcake. This is good stuff. I mean, do all of you know how important this scope and sequence stuff is? The scope is what? That's what's on a rifle that you use to shoot a deer. No, that's another scope. Get your dictionary. There's more than one definition for scope. This is the scope, all the stuff that we're going to study here. And what is all the stuff we're going to study here? A foundation for teaching in chapter 1. What's chapter 2?
Cognitive development.
You know what that is? Have you taken any psychology courses?
Not here, but
You haven't taken general psychology?
this substitutes it for ed majors.
Oh, this is the only psychology course you're going to get. Well, go take a bunch of them on your own, just for fun.
They are fun.
Wow. You've been robbed. That's all I can say. You've just been robbed. Okay, so have you figured out? So this cognitive stuff, how the mind works. That's going to be helpful. What's chapter 3?
Social, moral, and emotional development.
Man, I can't believe this guy got away with putting moral
I know.
development in there. So many people are afraid to use that word. I like this guy. In fact, does somebody remember that when I first found out I was teaching this class and I sent you an email and apologized for Miss Russo being gone, and that here's this old codger in here going to fill in and do this for you. But I said, this guy is so cool. I'm reading this book, because I already ordered a book once I knew I was going to teach it. And I said, this is just like listening to him give a lecture, reading this stuff. Wouldn't that be neat if your computer had the capacity to just click on your ebook and hit a conversion program that would just have somebody reading it?
I was wishing that this morning. I like to hear it.
That's right. But because even if you were reading, if you could read it, and I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years that technology will be there, because if you can look at the words and see it, processing it into your head through your eyes, and then hear it, processing it through your ears. Okay, it's almost like, now the math doesn't work out completely here, but it's almost like getting a double dose of the information.
Yeah.
And then when we start talking about it, that's even helping that much more to solidify this stuff in your mind. But that's going to be cool, looking at social, moral, and emotional development. Chapter 4 is what?
Student diversity.
There's a politically correct word, isn't it? But you know what? Apart from all the political correctness going on around us, are students very diverse?
Yeah.
You know, someone said to me one time, how can you, I go home And I tell my wife, I had so much fun at school today. And she goes, Tom, you've been teaching this same subject for so many years. How could it be that much fun all over again?
Mm.
And here's why. Because I've never had, okay, I've been teaching math forever. I've never had 2 classes of math students who were identical.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the beauty of this thing, is that it's not just the content,
Mm-hmm.
it's the students interacting with the content, and it changes with every class. The dynamics change with every class, so it's a whole new experience again. Now, if all I was doing was just walking into math class, and most of my math classes were like this, the professor was highly intelligent, so he would just walk into the room right as the clock struck time to start, and he would walk up to the board and just start showing off how smart he was. And if you could watch him do the problems and figure it out, then you passed the class, and if you couldn't,
Wow.
you fell by the wayside. But that's the way most mathematicians think. We don't want everybody catching on to mathematics. If we did, there'd be too much competition for our jobs. And we like having a little exclusive guild of mathematicians who only let a few join the club. See, and I thought, that's just not right. That's not fair. That's just wrong. My job is to help every child learn as much math as they can, and especially help them learn the math that they need to know to function well in life. And of course, if you're being an elementary teacher, you're going to have to teach everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just tell you now, since you've taken this class from me, if you're going to put up with me for an hour and a half, 3 times a week, for 22 sessions, or an hour and a half for 22 sessions, you are entitled for the rest of your life to call me on the phone and say, Dr. Bonine, I'm having some problems with some students in my class learning this concept. Can you help me? And I'll say, well, let's talk it over. And we'll talk through it, and I'll keep making suggestions till I find one you like. And I'll say, try it. If it doesn't work, call me back. Because if you've paid to listen to me do all this stuff that I'm doing here, that I'm loving doing, and I used to teach inside years ago, that I'm just saying, you're entitled to call me and say, hey, I'm stuck on this. Give me some help. Help me understand this. But the diversity of students, yeah, they're so diverse. And we're going to talk about that one. Behavioral and social theories of learning. Okay, as soon as they say theories, what does that tell you?
It's not scientific fact yet.
It's not a scientific fact. It's somebody's idea of how all the facts fit together.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the facts. Now, how do all those facts fit together? That's the theory. And of course, they call them, what do they call them? Oh, good. He called them behavioral and social theories rather than scientific theories. If it's a theory, it's not really science, and if it's science, it's not really a theory. If you mix sodium and chlorine together in the right proportion, what do you get? Sodium chloride. Have you had chemistry class somewhere? What is sodium chloride called? See, you all will know this after you've taught your first 2 or 3 years of school, where you have to teach science to all these little chippers. Someone want to guess what sodium chloride is?
Is it salt?
Ah,
Okay.
there you go. Table salt. Now see, that's a fact. That's a fact. Now how come you can take sodium and chlorine,
You know.
2 funny substances, and mix them together and get that? Well, my theory is, you follow how that happens.
Mm.
And that's the difference between the facts and theories. And when I'm looking at these facts and these theories out there, I say, okay, here's a fact. Well, I just came from human growth and development this morning. So, is anyone here in that class? Oh, you're going to get a double dose of stuff. So, what was the fact? What was the fact? Do you remember the fact that I asked in class? Say, what's a common word that little children use?
No.
Everybody agree? Okay, everybody agree with that? That's a fact. Little children say no a lot. Now, what's the theory? Why do little children say no a lot?
They're a product of their environment.
And they're a product of their environment. That's one theory. What's another one?
They're sinful.
Not those beautiful yes. Have you ever noticed how sinful kids know how to smile and make them? Where did sinful kids learn to give us angelic looks? What is that all about? Mess with me, are you? But see, those are the theories. That's the theory part of it. And as you heard me say in human growth and development, is that here are the facts, here are the theories, and then we add to that from a Christian perspective, and here's what the Bible says about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bible has the final word. So if the theory doesn't agree with the Bible, or the fact doesn't agree with the Bible, I stick with the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people who gave me some facts often change their facts later when they learn more information. Okay, so cognitive theories of learning, the effective lesson. Have you learned how to write lesson plans anywhere?
Some of our education courses.
Okay, were you taught to write effective lesson plans? You go, what's the difference between a lesson plan and an effective lesson plan? A lesson plan could meet the requirement for a course. You could actually write a lesson plan for a teacher, and it might not be an effective lesson plan. Say, how will you know if it's effective or not?
If it works.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, when you try it on some kids and find out, whoops, that one needs to be adjusted if I'm going to make it effective. What's the next one? Chapter 8.
Student-centered and constructivist approaches to instruction,
What does student-centered mean?
as opposed to teacher-centered.
Oh. So who is the center of this classroom? If it's not the students and if it's not the teacher?
God.
Thank you. You guys have something going in this department. I'm telling you, I'm impressed. I thought that's what was going to happen with me filling in teaching this class. I would get to interact with all these education majors, and it would just be music to my heart. And it is to hear that. That's great. God's the center. God's the center of this. He's what it's all about. And sometimes the children are given preference, and sometimes the teacher is given a preference. Sometimes I used to walk into the classroom and say to my little chippers, you know, boys and girls, I've had a bad day. And I'm just that far away from falling over the edge. So don't mess with me, or there will be serious consequences. And the kids were so kind. They would be nice to me for the rest of that day. Yeah, because if we mess up, he's not going to give us any grace like he normally does. He's just going to nail us. Well, thank you for being so thoughtful, I say to those little chippers at the end of the day. You've made my day go better. Because, I mean, you're not going to go to school every day. You know, it's just right on your top of your game. And you just need to be willing to say to the kids, this one's going to need, I'm going to need a little help today. I'm going to need a little cooperation. Little quieter voices in here, whatever it takes. You know, I've got a headache, whatever. And what's this constructivist approach to instruction? Are you familiar with that word? Oh, we're going to learn something in here, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Looks like it. Okay, we'll say that one for later. Grouping. That's a bunch of people who all wear the same kind of hats. No. What do we mean by grouping in chapter 9?
It's a way of making teaching effective in the classroom, not individualized.
It's not individualized. It's not just
But it's still
everybody. I'm putting people in groups. And I would find some criteria for grouping you that would help facilitate learning. Have any of you ever been in school where you were put together, paired up with another student to do something, and they took you, the good student, and paired you with some dodo who didn't do anything, and he got credit for all the work you did? That didn't happen to you?
I was homeschooled.
You avoided that nonsense. Well, look at these two people. They weren't, right? They weren't. They got nailed by someone who, and guess what happened? Okay, you want to know what happened? Your teacher went to a teacher's convention, went to a workshop, heard about pairing kids up to do things together. It does all kinds of things for them socially. And so they just thought, hey, we'll just take the best and the worst, you know, what, like this is a baseball tournament or something? No, you don't, you know, it's like, no, wait a minute. If I'm going to pair, if I want these kids to interact, I'm probably going to pair the two worst kids in class together and the two best kids in class together so they stimulate one another. You follow what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
That you want to do something that helps here, not one that does all the work and carries the load for the other one. What about differentiation? You don't know about that one. You do know about it.
Teaching in a way that meets all levels of learners.
Yeah, there's all these different levels. And even kids have different ways of learning, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And so I get to know what way works best for which ones and then let them operate accordingly. I have a grandson who's really was really smart in school. And when he was in grade school, they had grandparents day, so I went to sit with him in class. And his teacher's up there teaching a lesson, and he's not even paying attention. He's just sitting there doing the work. He's got his assignment done, and he finishes his assignment, and he just walks up and lays it on her desk. And I thought, he's going to get in trouble, because he didn't ask permission. He just did it. Then he came back to his desk, and he put his book up and went over to a shelf and pulled the book off and came over and started working on something. And I thought, I can't believe it. This boy's going to get in trouble. And I said, Stephen, you're going to get in trouble. He said, no. He said, it's okay. She told me I could do this. What had this teacher done? While she's teaching something that this kid just automatically picks up and knows, don't waste his time by having him sit there and twiddle his thumbs while you're teaching everybody else. Give him something he can do that keeps him learning. Mm-hmm. Was that cool that she did that? That's a good teacher. Technology? Well, we're learning about it all the time, aren't we? Here I am, a math teacher after all these years. Anybody here in my math class? Oh, man. My newest toy is what?
Tablet.
A tablet. A tablet. Does it help?
Yes, it does.
Oh, you didn't have math with me in a whiteboard, did you?
No, I didn't.
Can you imagine if I was up there with markers on that whiteboard? The people in the back couldn't even see what was going on, could they? And that tablet just, and if someone says, I can't see that, I haven't done it yet, but I just put my finger on there. Now can you see that? It's so cool. And guess what I discovered? Okay, I've been teaching the same material so long, and I use the same book, so I know how long it takes to work through it. I'm teaching through a lesson, and I'm going, whoa, I just got done 10 minutes early. Now, what's the difference between this time and the last time I taught this very same topic? I had the tablet, so I was working off the tablet instead of turning around and working on a whiteboard, then erase it and do something else and erase it. You mean to say I was spending 10 minutes out of a class period just erasing? And now I don't have to do that anymore? So I have an extra 10 minutes to spend instructing? And while I was erasing the board, if people didn't know what was going on, I couldn't tell. And now with this tablet, I'm looking at the whites of their eyes constantly. In fact, this tablet reminds me of when I taught junior hires. Have any of you had occasion to have a Christian ministry with junior high kids? What happens with junior high kids when you turn your back to erase the board for just a minute?
They start talking.
These kids are little squirrels, aren't they? It's nuts. Well, see, it used to be when the overhead projector came along, and I'm going, all right. I never take my eyes off of those junior high kids. I watched them the whole time. This tablet would do the same thing for me with junior high kids. And I thought, wow, this thing is so cool. So modern technology, and who knows what'll come along down the road for you guys. But let me tell you, okay, I didn't just decide, hey, I'm going to see what can help me technologically. What happened is the registrar sent me a roster and said, there's too many students to fit in your regular math class, so we have to put you in the Langmaid room. You have 30 people in math. And I went up to the Langmaid room and saw the tables, and I said, there's no way the people in the back can see this. So I was either going to have to say, let's make 2 sections of the class where I teach the class twice. Then that means a bunch of people have to change their schedule. Or I get on the internet to see what kind of technological help there's available out there. And guess what I found? Some guy in Australia was teaching math with a tablet. And I'm going, whoa, that'll do it. And so then I went over to Best Buy, telling them I'm looking for one of these tablets, and they said, why are you looking for this kind? I said, because that's what the guy in Australia was using, where I saw him on the internet doing this. He said, what do you want to do with this? This is what I like about Best Buy, because they help you with their expertise. And I said, well, I'm gonna hook it up to the computer at school and send it through a projector on the screen, and it's also being recorded for people who take the class online. He said, oh, you don't want one of these. He said, what you want is a Surface Go. He said, it's compatible with your computer, your Microsoft ware at school. And he said, and it'll do a lot more stuff for you. And I said, so if it does a lot more stuff, cha-ching, 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 that means it probably costs more money. He said, yeah, but he said, it's worth it. And he went over and turned one on and showed me how it works. And I spent some more of my grocery money. Said, we'll just eat cheaper for a while till I get this thing paid for. I mean, if you're a teacher, okay, you make teaching a priority to the point to where I can cut some other things out so I can save some money to buy this piece of technology. You just do it. You just figure out a way to make it work. Because it's so important to stay up with what's going on, and if this stuff works, then let's use it. Chapter 10. What are you going to do in chapter 10?
Motivate students to learn.
Yep. I'm going to figure out a way to get these students to learn some math. And they walk in my room and go, I hate math. Well, what? How could you hate math? I just do. And finally I realized, and here's what I tell students now. No, you don't hate math. What you mean is you had bad math teachers who never helped you figure out how to do math, so you got mad about it and blamed math. And I say, I'll show you. And then once I start teaching them and they start seeing and understanding it, they go, oh, wow, this is cool stuff. I said, there you go. Send an email to your old teacher and say, shame on you. I tell my students that. I say, now when you send them an email and say, shame on you for not teaching me this, they might write back and say, shame on you for not paying attention. Because that could have been part of the problem when you were in school. You just weren't inclined to pay attention back then. But the bottom line is that somebody wasn't motivated to learn, and if I can motivate a student to learn, it's going to change their world. And it's going to make mine a lot more fun too. Chapter 11 is what?
Active learning environments.
Environments. What's the environment?
Classroom.
I walked in this room and I'm going, what in the world is that at the end of the... I'm going, I need to get in. I need to move this class to another room. What is that? I know that's somebody's effort to make a tree down there. Isn't it?
Yeah. It's a bulletin board that someone made.
But now see, you have to understand, this is not a commentary on your tree. This is a commentary on me. I'm a math person. I want my room full of numbers and charts and all that kind of stuff. And trees and green stuff and leaves. That's for raking out in the yard. Then you say, well, I'm sorry. But little kids love that stuff. And they don't want to, and they walk in a room that's surrounded with numbers, and it makes them sick to their stomachs. They could say, this is a sad state of affairs in here. So I say, okay, I just have to make some adjustments in terms of what kind of environment am I going to work with and create for my students. Chapter 12 is learners with what?
Exceptionalities.
Back when I studied educational psychology years ago at the university, it was learners with disabilities. But we don't want to use that word anymore, right? Is that what's going on? So say, well, no, that there's learners with disabilities, but there's also learners that are highly gifted. So exceptionalities includes both. I agree with you. And by the way, when I was a teacher, I just thought one summer, wouldn't it be cool to go to the library and do a bunch of research and find out what did all of the math teachers to great mathematicians do to help them become great mathematicians? And then I will find those students in my classroom who tend to have that proficiency and help turn them into great mathematicians. Won't that be cool? I mean, I won't have a lot of them, but I'll have a handful of them that I can work with somehow and help them be great mathematicians. Any idea what happened when I studied the lives of great mathematicians, looking for what their teachers did?
It doesn't talk about their teachers.
What?
It doesn't talk about their teachers.
Why not?
Because teachers are important, but they're not what people think of.
And if you're a brilliant mathematician, you don't need a teacher.
Nope.
You're figuring this stuff out on your own. And it's like, whoa. So what do all of the exceptionally gifted kids need from me? Like that teacher did with my grandson. The freedom to pursue that area of knowledge and go beyond where we're ever going to go in the class. And what do the kids who have math deficiencies? Okay, see, a math deficiency, they need me helping them catch up, overcome, and figure out why they missed that and what's going on. Why isn't it not connecting in their head somehow? What's chapter 13?
Assessing.
Assessment. Assessment. So what do you know about assessment?
It's important.
It's what?
It's important.
Why is it important?
Assessing what they know. It helps you know where your students are at.
It is a self-reflection tool to know how well you're teaching, and then also to be able at the end of the year show them where they've come from.
You mean to say if I give a math test and everybody misses question 13, I must not have taught the stuff, I must not have taught them well as to how to answer question 13?
You may
Or
not
could
have
it be
done
they
well.
just weren't paying attention that day and these kids just don't have, they just weren't working hard enough?
You may have taught it well, but just not in the way that made sense to them.
Somehow, whatever I did, it didn't connect and they didn't get it. And maybe I need to go back and create more practice problems for that kind of stuff.
Or try teaching it a different way.
Or try another way of teaching it. And see if that makes a difference next time around. So this is actually true, I love to look at the test results for exams after I give them to see which questions a lot of kids missed, and then I can look to see what can I do different next time. Now, is that painful doing that? What do all the athletes in the world say? No pain, no gain. If that's true for football and track and soccer and baseball and all of this stuff, why wouldn't it be true for teaching too? Hey, I just have to endure a little bit of pain to have a gain from what's going on. And I will tell you that I have to turn in this week my response to student evaluations for last semester. And I didn't do as well in one of my classes that I have in the past, and I've still not figured out why. After all these years, I don't know what happened. And what's tough is that I didn't get enough. If I get a lot of comments and and the scores are down, I can read from the comments what I can work on. But I only got 3 or 4 comments. So I don't know why they marked me down. So I got to figure out what to do about that the next time I teach it. You understand? I just have to do this kind of stuff. Assessing myself. Oh, but that's assessing students' learning. Yeah, but I'm assessing the students' learning so I can be a better teacher. It's not just for them. It's for us both. It's for me to do the reflection. It's for them to learn the stuff, and for me to see if they're learning it, and then move on from there. And what's the last chapter? Chapter 14.
Standardized tests and accountability.
Yeah, standardized test. And accountability has become such a big thing in the teaching profession that I can't believe this. I cannot believe I'm telling you this. But some teachers and principals even are so stressed about this accountability stuff that in order for for them to get their recognition they want, they have taken the kids' test and changed some answers to raise the kids' test scores.
Oh my.
I'm telling you, this is a stressful area for a lot of people. And some people do it just because they have a reputation to maintain and they don't want that reputation to be lost, so they start cheating on their kids' standardized test. How sad is that? How sad is that? If they're missing something, let's look at our curriculum, let's look at what we're doing, let's look at what's going on, and let's see if we can figure out a way to fix it. But so much is based on that testing stuff now that have you heard people talk about this? They're teaching to the test. They're teaching to the test.
Mm-hmm.
And even to the point where in some schools they say, okay, here's the test you're going to be taking. Let me teach you how to pass this test.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's not what standardized testing is supposed to be all about.
Mm.
Okay, so now you know briefly what this book's all about, and then look at this. This sounds like the human growth class, doesn't it? Because now they give a detailed contents, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's almost twice as much as the human growth book. This guy gives 13 pages of a detailed outline. What good is that?
When you're trying to study for a test or whatever, you can go back through and say, I need to focus on this area, and it tells you what pages to look at.
Okay, so you can say these are the crucial areas of the chapter, and to studying for a test. What's another thing it's good for?
If you don't have time to read the chapter, you can look at the detailed content and have
a general idea of what's going on. And if you don't understand a certain concept, you look at that page and read that one and say, well, I didn't read the whole chapter, but the part that I didn't know anything about, I read that to learn something about it. Ah. You go, isn't that cheating? Because you're supposed to read the whole chapter. Well, how do I motivate you to read the whole chapter? What's one of your assignments? Do you have to write 1-page, single-space, typewritten summaries? I didn't give that to you? Well, I'll have to look at my Carnegie Unit worksheet and see why I left that out. Okay, here's normally what I do. It could be because... What?
Pearson. We have like quiz things on Pearson we have to do.
On my lab?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like multiple choice answers.
I'll bet when I looked at my lab and I thought, you know what, my lab is doing so much of this that I won't have to make them write a 1-page. But
Yeah.
in my classes, okay, since this is educational psychology, in my classes where they don't have a my lab thing to go to like you do here, that's when, if they have to type a 1-page single-spaced summary of the chapter, I can tell by reading that whether or not they've read the chapter. And reading through the chapter to write that little summary and draw some stuff out, that's kind of my way of saying this is how I know they've read the chapter. But see why I don't call that cheating, because what you just did is you said, I was in a hurry and I learned the stuff that I didn't know anything about. That's better than not learning at all. So the most effective learning is when we do the whole package. But sometimes doing the whole package is just more stressful than some people can handle. Another use for this this expanded content is, let's see, let's look at chapter 1 and see what it says. Okay, let's just go back here and look at chapter 1. What makes a good teacher? Knowing the subject matter, mastering teaching skills. Can good teaching be taught? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. The intentional teacher. Are you intentional? 21st century skills. Common Core in college and career ready standards. And my lab has a bunch of stuff in all those areas, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you've been looking at my lab, haven't you? So, is it time for me to ask yet? So, are you finding my lab pretty useful?
Still
You haven't started it yet.
navigate. I started it this morning. Still navigating around the website. I did my lab at the community college that I was at for
Okay,
biology.
so you've done
So
that.
I've done it once, but it was a long time ago.
Okay, so as we go through here, I mean, talk to me when you're doing some iLab stuff about what it's like. I want some feedback to see if I made a good choice. I mean, it's too late now. I've already made the choice, but you know, you already spent your money. But let me know if maybe I should change next semester, or if I teach this class again, to say, okay, we won't do my lab. They have to write summaries of everything, and then I give them quizzes over it.
I feel like the quizzes you can do in Canvas.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right. I can make up quizzes like they do in my lab, but I like the fact that I like the way they put stuff together in my lab.
And one of the better things about my lab is when you get an answer wrong, and it explains to you why that's not quite the
Yeah,
right answer.
it interacts with you.
Yeah.
And there's some places where you get to watch people doing this stuff. You know, where educational psychology is, we're not just talking about it in the classroom, but now you get to go watch somebody doing it. And I thought that is so cool to have little videos of people actually doing this stuff when you're reading about it, to click on there and watch it. What's the role of research in educational psychology? See, the first part of chapter 1 is what makes a good teacher. The second part of chapter 1 is what's the role of research in educational psychology. And it talks about the goal of research. Why do people do research?
Learn more to be better.
To see if what we're doing is working or not. To learn more stuff. The value of research. Teaching as decision making. Research plus common sense equals effective teaching. You like that? Research plus common sense equals effective teaching. Research on effective programs, and I think they do this on almost every chapter, then they have this theory into practice. Yeah, theory into practice. Theory into practice. And then, how can I become an intentional teacher? How can you become an intentional teacher? Has two ways suggested there. Teacher certification and beyond certification. Now, getting my license to teach didn't really make me a better teacher. But it made the parents perceive me as a better teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So did that make what I was doing more effective? Yes. When the parents and the students knew I had a license to practice the craft of teaching, even though I didn't change everything I did, it changed their willingness to cooperate with me and to work with me. They would listen to what I had to say. Now, I'm laughing when I say that because you guys will just have to, I mean, you'll get to know me pretty well as this class goes on. But that's what's funny about when I used to go to teachers' conventions and do seminars, and they would always make sure they put down Tom Bonine, PhD. And I would smile when I'd see that, because I knew some people came to my seminar for one reason only.
Because he had a PhD.
He had a PhD. And I had taught some of those seminars before I had my PhD, and you could tell it made a difference in attendance, and it also made a difference in how people responded to what I said. Isn't that funny? That's part of educational psychology, is how you're perceived by the people you're trying to engage in the learning process. And it does, it makes me smile thinking about it. Because, okay, I'll real quick tell you if I got a PhD. When I came to work here at Calvary, we went to graduation, and I'm standing in line with my robe on, waiting to march up on the platform, and here are some other professors, and they got stripes on their sleeves, little velvet stripes, and I'm going, whoa, those are cool, where'd you get those? And they said, you get those when you earn a PhD. And I went home and said to my wife, guess what, Dinah? I'm going to go get a PhD. And she said, why? And I said, because I want stripes on my sleeves at graduation. And I went to the university, and I walked up to my old advisor, the guy who was my advisor for my master's degree, and I said, Dr. Bailey, I'm back in town, and I'm thinking about coming to work on a PhD. He said, well, good for you, Tom. I said, well, I remember that when I graduated with my master's degree, you said if I ever want to work on my PhD that you'd be glad to be my advisor, but were you just being nice, or did you mean it? He said, no, I meant it. He said, you want to work on a PhD? I'll be your advisor. And then he said, why do you want a PhD? And I said, graduation. I just came from there, stripes on my sleeve. And he said, and see, he knew me, so he knows I'm a jokester a little bit and I have a sense of humor. He said, well, Tom, he said, if you're going to get accepted into the program, you better have a better reason than that. I said, well, it'll make me a better college professor. It'll enrich me, my life as a person. I mean, I know all the stuff to say, right? It'll just cause me to grow leaps and bounds. Well, there you go. Put that down in paper. And what else did they say? And take the graduate record exam, and you'll be on your way. Anyone know what the graduate record exam is? It's a record of how much you know when you enroll in graduate school. And it's kept, and everybody looks at it, looks at your graduate record exam score. And the graduate record exam is a two-part test. Half of it's English, and half of it's math. You don't like either part of that, huh?
I thought you were going to say English and then another
language.
No, you have to have another language to get out of the program. To get in, you just have to do well on the graduate record exam, and it's half English, it's half word skills, and it's half math skills. Why am I smiling?
Because you had a
Because I'm already an expert in half of that test. So I'm in the door, no matter what I do on the English part. But I just thought, you know, it wouldn't hurt to study for the English part of that test and make as high a score as I can going in the door. Never hurts to have a high score. So I studied for the English part, and I asked God for wisdom as to how to get ready for that part of the test, because I'm not a wordsmith, and I don't know how to spell, and all kinds of, and I don't put LYs on words that I should. My wife tells me that all the time and corrects me. So I thought, Lord, what can I do? And I was sitting there thinking about what I could do, and there it came in the mail, Reader's Digest. And you know how Reader's Digest has 21 days to enlarge your vocabulary? Well, I found them. You didn't know it had that in there? They've got all these goofy words that nobody ever uses and tells you what they mean and how to use them. And I found a book that had put all those together. And so I started studying that book. And I went and I said, I think they use this book to write the graduate record exam. I thought, this is crazy. And I walked in there, whoa, all these Reader's Digest words that I didn't know, but I'd memorized them briefly just before I went in there and took the test. And bingo, shot the top off of the test. And so now all these pagans, oh, this is being taped, isn't it? All these non-Christians have a Christian now, and they know he's a Christian. They have a Christian in their classroom, and so they're thinking, "What's he doing here?" And then they go check my graduate record exam. In fact, one lady said to me in class, she was complaining about a lady at her school who was reading the Bible during her lunch break in her classroom. She goes, "She shouldn't be allowed to bring a Bible to school." And I said, "What's the problem anyway?" And she said, "Well, the Bible." I said, "Yeah, it's a good book. I read it. Have you read it?" "No, I'm not going to either." And she said, "Are you a Christian?" And I said, "Yes." She said, and here's what she said next. "Well, how'd you get into the PhD program?" And my wife says this was wrong, but I said it anyway. I said, "I took the same graduate record exam you did. What was your score?" Nails to those people. I mean, what's the assumption? What's the assumption these people have? If you're a Christian,
You're
what?
automatically dumb.
That's and this is from my growing up in Oklahoma with my father. Dumber than a stump. That's what they think if you're a Christian. And some of my professors said, "Tom," he said, "I can't believe you think like this." And I said, "Why wouldn't I?" He said, "I looked at your graduate record exam. You're so smart." I said, "That's why I think like this." And then I said, "Have you ever read the Bible?" "No." I said, "Well, you ought to give it a try. It'll change your life, man. It's good stuff." And I really kind of thought I might get to lead some of these guys to the Lord. No, they're hardcore guys over there. You know, they've got their minds made up, and don't confuse me with the facts. And what are the facts that we're talking about? Capital T, truth, right out of God's Word. Okay, enough of that. Now we'll see if my lab's helping you do all that stuff. And now we need to jump over here and get some of this stuff done. When does this class end? No, that's not right. It's supposed to go till 2:50, isn't it?
No.
What?
It's only an hour and a half. It starts at 12:30.
So we have to be done in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
That's just wrong. I'm just telling you, that's just wrong. I'm just getting warmed up here. My wife thought I'd be exhausted after teaching 2 classes and walking in here. Wait till I get home and tell her what happened today. Okay. Did any of you notice on Canvas that I tried to start a discussion?
No.
Well, that's why nobody's written anything. All right. Well, I tried to start a discussion,
There it is.
and nobody did anything. Oh, I'm glad you feel bad. And you know what? Okay, now, see, I'm supposed to not only teach you this stuff, I'm supposed to practice what I'm preaching in here. How come I'm not chewing you out for not doing that discussion thing?
Well, you can't be held accountable for something you didn't know.
Yeah, but aren't you supposed to check Canvas and read your announcements? And oh, but did I announce? Go do the discussion?
I don't think it was on the
So,
announcement.
see, there you go. See, so I didn't announce it, so I didn't know. And you know what? It could be that when. Oh, did you find
Is it on
something?
there?
No.
It's on?
Oh, it is on there.
It is.
Is
Discussion
it?
on
It
chapters
is.
1 and 2.
But I don't know if I got notified about it.
No, I never got a
I
notification.
didn't remember it until
Well,
this.
there you
not
go.
this.
But besides, when I went to it, after I built this little discussion thing, because I thought it's a cool little technology thing to use, I went there and tried to add something. Because see, what I wanted you to do is I wanted everybody to contribute. On page 5 in your textbook, it talks about Miss Wilson, who wants to be a skillful teacher. And I put down 20 tasks that Miss Wilson must accomplish if she wants to be a skillful teacher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14. There's only 15 that I pulled out of the textbook on page 5. If you have the textbook, look at page 5. Do you see where I got make sure the class is orderly? students know what behavior is expected of them. Do you see that on page 5 anywhere?
Okay. What do you mean?
Make sure the class is orderly and that the students know what behavior is expected of them.
Where'd you see that?
This.
Middle of page, right underneath
Yeah.
that, the second paragraph on page 5? Okay, so there you go. Now you see on page 5 where I'm getting this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Find out if students have the prerequisite skills. Okay, are you running down the list with me? Okay, now I'm going to read what I have on my list here. You can look at it and then look at the textbook, and I left some space in case I left something out. We could add it in there. Find a way to teach prerequisite skills. If they don't have the skills, then let's find a way to teach it. Engage them in activities that lead toward understanding. Use teaching strategies that help students remember what they've been taught. Is all that stuff showing up in the list there? Take into account the intellectual and social characteristics of students. Make sure the students are interested in the lesson. You seeing that on that page there? Make sure the students are motivated to learn. Check to see if they're learning what's being taught. Have them demonstrate their understanding of the lesson. Respond appropriately if students are having problems. Review the topic from time to time to ensure that it's being remembered. Show warmth, enthusiasm, and caring. Understand how children learn. Should I have added something else? Did you see something in there? Okay. What?
I saw the announcement to come up with these, so I have my list.
Okay, how does your list compare with the one I just passed out?
It's pretty much the same. One that I put on my list that you don't have is make sure that the lessons make sure the lessons don't conflict with the child's intellect, social, or cultural background.
Make sure the lesson what?
Don't conflict with the child.
Doesn't conflict with.
A child's intellect, social, or cultural background. And
With
then,
the child's background,
yeah.
culture. Good one. Make sure we're not stepping on somebody's cultural toes while we're doing this stuff. Very good. That's why I left a space here, because I thought, okay, I was going to have everybody make a little contribution, but then you have to go to Google Documents and get permission, and it got all convoluted. So I thought, well, just type it up, bring it in here, pass it out, and then you can take what I've got here and compare it with the text. And if you didn't already make the list, then you can look through there and say, there's room to add some more stuff. And then I skipped down there and added some stuff that they didn't include. I mean, isn't this? If Miss Wilson wants to be a skillful teacher, does she need to ask God for wisdom before she teaches a lesson?
Yes.
Does she need to ask God to help her students learn the lesson? I don't know how many times I've been trying to help junior high kids understand math, and these little squirrels just aren't paying attention. And I turn to the board and I say, let's try it one more time. And I say, Lord, this is just between me and the Lord. I'm not talking out loud, but I'll do it for your benefit. I say, Lord, help me do something to get these little squirrels to figure this stuff out. And I start writing again, and I turn around and I say, what do you think? And they go, I think I got it. And I go, thank you, Lord. The squirrels have paid attention long enough to get. I mean, I'm just being honest with my Heavenly Father about what I'm trying to do, and He knows I want these kids to learn this stuff so bad. But guess what? He wants them to learn it more than I do. I mean, He wants what I want more than I want it. I need to be tuned into Him. So I added those 3 down there. Praying regularly for each student individually by name. That's why I won these cards. And when my original plan didn't work out, I just typed this up and gave it out. And we just real quick, since we only had 10 minutes left, we just ran through this list in 5 minutes. And I was going to spend a good portion of the class time today just talking about each one of these. But do you need something like this handy to say, I need to keep this in my file so that if I want to be a skillful teacher, I need to go down here and start checking this stuff off to see, am I doing this stuff? Am I doing this stuff? And then at the bottom, since I loved what Robert Slavin said so much, I put in quotes and then referenced it. Because I just thought, what he said there is so powerful. I like this book. Well, we just took up 5 minutes of our time. I have one more thing to do here. Now that we're looking at Canvas, did anyone find something that has to do with intentional teaching?
On Canvas?
Uh-huh. Did you find anything that talked about intentional teaching?
Simon?
Under discussions?
I saw
Oh.
that you uploaded documents. That's where I already
I
saw
see
it.
the discussing chapters 1 through 2.
Under
Do you see anything that says,
intentional.
how do you become an intentional teacher?
Files.
It's in files.
It's in files?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. After I made this, I thought the people online are going to want to look at it, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
So I better upload it to files.
Good job.
But I went through pages 6 through 9. Now, watch what I just said to you. See, I'm going to teach this class, and then I'm just going to stop and put in a parentheses and talk about educational psychology. Okay, I'm going to talk about the process. Okay, I'm pretty much finished with chapter 1. I know. Now on Wednesday, we're going to run through some more stuff, but by then you will have read the chapter. So then when I start flipping pages and saying, what about this, what about this, what about this? Do you have any questions? You understand? But to do that now would be counterproductive because you haven't had time to kind of soak it up. But the two things that I think personally you need to file away for the rest of your life as a teacher are the 2 handouts I just gave you. You'll figure out how to get your license. You'll figure out how to take those tests. You'll figure out all that technical. You'll jump through all those hoops. But what you're going to need the rest of your life is those 20 things that we haven't quite come up with 20 yet. Well, maybe we have. We'll see. But we might change the number from 20. But then this one, the intentional teacher does all the following. Now, I was going to keep this to 1 page. And when I got through going through pages 6 through 9, I had more than 1 page. Actually, I went through the textbook and extracted what I thought was the essence of what they were saying in the textbook. And then at the end, I started adding stuff of my own. And it started running over into page 2. And I thought, I don't want page 2. I want to put it all on 1 page. Because if you're going to be an intentional teacher and you check off all of these things every week of your life, you know what you're probably going to say at the end of your first year of teaching? I don't have a life. I spend my life teaching. And you won't make all 20 things happen. I mean, you won't make this whole page of things happen all at once. But do you understand? If these are the things intentional teachers do, the more of these I'm doing, the more I qualify to be an intentional teacher. And I ought to be looking at these things to see if I'm getting better. So if you have a Christian ministry where you're working with children, I dare you. I double dare you. Take this list and look at what you're doing and see how many of these things you can check off that you're doing. And then say, you know what? I'm not doing very many of these. I'll try to do a few more. No, I'll just give up and change my major and go do something else. No, it's like, here's where I am in life. And if you can only check off 4 or 5 of these, then that just means you have a lot of room for growth. And if you keep this around and keep checking things off as time goes on, do you understand what that's going to do for you as a teacher? Now you see why I'm having so much fun doing this? Because it's been a long time since I taught educational psychology. I get this book, I'm reading through this stuff. What do you think this is doing for me in terms of the classes I'm teaching here at Calvary? It's helping me as a teacher to help you learn this stuff. And this is powerful stuff. But it's overwhelming. And it can consume your life if you let it. That's okay. I can't think of a better way to spend my life. Yeah, but you had 2 daughters and a wife. Okay, I find time for them too. It's just that sometimes, like last night, I was up till after midnight putting the final touches on this stuff because I was so pumped. You are one sick puppy. That's all I can say. And time's up. You're out of here. I'll see you on Wednesday. We don't have class on Friday, do we?
No.
Because it's day of prayer.
All right.
Okay.
I
Man.
will do that.
Man. Now I have to go home and find some more good stuff for Wednesday. I can do that. I can do that.
I see where Dean Karen gets her disposition from.
That's funny.
She's been telling me how excited you were for this class.
Yes.
Talked about November 3rd, I'm going to be out of town.
And that's the beauty of this online stuff, isn't it? You just tune in, watch it, do whatever needs to be done, and I mark you present.
Okay, alright.
Will that
Sounds
work?
good, yes. Thank
Good
you.
for you. Why did this thing go off on us? I hope it's still working. It is. Turn it off.